Well, welcome back, Batman fans, DC fans alike. I am Dial, and this is another edition of my live stream. And we are nearing the end of Bat Month. We have two more movies to talk about, but we are talking about every theatrical release of Batman leading up to Matt Reeves' The Batman, which is going to be in theaters this weekend. I know there have been early screenings already and reviews are already out there, but it's officially going to be out in theaters for the public this weekend. I'm very excited to see this movie finally. But for those of you who are new, um, I've already did live streams for the Adam West Batman movie in 1966. Talked about the two Tim Burton Batman films, the 1989 movie and Batman Returns. We talked about the animated film Batman Mask of the Phantasm. We talked about the two Joel Schumacher movies, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And we just talked about the first installment of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, Batman Begins. If you haven't seen any of those live streams, check out my channel. I have a playlist on my channel called Bat Month, and you can see all the reviews there. But the moment most of you, I'm sure, are waiting for, we're finally going to be getting into the Dark Knight. Very excited to get into this. So before we begin, I just want to apologize. I was supposed to have this live stream last week, but technical issues happened, and so I had to postpone it back a couple times. So apologize for that. But we're here now and we're finally ready to get into this. Very excited. And I am not alone. Joining with me today, back on the stream, we have Ambassador. What's going on, man?
Let's put a smile on those faces. It
Heck
is a
yeah.
good DL. It is good to be back with you, my friend. Glad to be here once again. Glad to be a part of Bat Month. And yes, this was a. I think a lot of people will agree. This was a benchmark in the comic book movie genre, and just a in and of itself a great film, just on its standing on its own. So, and excited to get into the discussion on this one. So
Absolutely. Yeah, this
let's
is
do
a
it.
film that definitely changed the landscape of comic book films. Comic movies have never been the same after this. It definitely is a milestone. I will agree. Um, I will say before we start getting into this, there's going to be a possibility that I'm going to step on a couple of toes today because I do have some things to say about it now, watching it recently. But nonetheless, gonna be a fun discussion, regardless. We may have a couple more people come in. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, let us get into the Dark Knight. So, if you guys have seen my live stream for Batman Begins, you guys know I love Batman Begins. It's one of my favorite, if not, yeah, it is one of my favorite Batman films. Highly underrated. When it comes to the Dark Knight trilogy, I feel like that's the one that gets ignored because everyone talks about Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, but like Batman Begins, I feel like it doesn't get the recognition it deserves because that was the one that really started Batman, being taken more seriously and comic book films started taking more seriously. It did start with that film, and I like that with
Yes.
that movie. If we actually got to see Batman's origin from the ground up, he actually felt like the main character in his own movie, and we see him develop from a kid to an adult, and all that stuff was really interesting. So definitely really enjoyed Batman Begins. Um, I did have you on my Batman Begins stream. How did you feel about it?
Oh, I as with the Nolan trilogy, I mean, I have the Dark Knight trilogy on Blu-ray. I mean, I got the collector's set, and I mean, I went and saw all three of them. Batman Begins, yes, it was absolutely. It is by far. It is one of my favorite films and everything. Batman films in particular, but yeah, I have to agree with you because it has been so rare. I mean, honestly, we have never had a film that shows Bruce Wayne beginning his career as Batman, and to have just to give my thoughts very briefly on Batman Begins, to have a top-notch cast like we had with Batman Begins. I mean, obviously Christian Bale, you've got Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul, you've got Michael Caine as Alfred, you've got Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon,
Mhm.
and just the story overall was very solid. You know, giving a proper origin for Batman for the first time to see the death, not in a flashback, but to see it in the course of the film, to see Thomas and Martha Wayne killed and see how it affects young Bruce. It's a very powerful moment. It really solidified in a lot of people's minds the origin of Batman going forward. And honestly, I think it's one of the best depictions of his parents that we've ever gotten on film. I mean, up until then, we've only seen the death of his parents in flashback, and to get to know them at least a little bit and everything was, I think, a step in the right direction to kind of ground the family dynamic of the Waynes and the impact that his parents' death had on him. Now, of course, and we'll dig into The Dark Knight. I mean, another benchmark film, honestly, in a lot of ways. Obviously, got nominated for several Academy Awards. Obviously, we had a posthumous win for Heath Ledger and his performance as Joker. And I cannot say any higher um, due was given to Ledger's performance. He earned it, and it's just sad that it was his last performance.
Absolutely. So, remembering in the theater when I was watching Batman Begins, the ending scene where they teased that damn Joker card.
Hmm.
Man, I was so excited to see what they were going to do in the next movie with the Joker. Like
Hmm.
before there was even mid-credit scenes and stuff like that, you had that scene. It's probably one of my favorite endings to a Batman film. It's just that, just teasing what's going to happen next. And man, we were not prepared with what we were going to get in the next movie.
No, we
So,
weren't.
no, we weren't. So, so before the movie came out, there was official that Christopher Nolan casted Heath Ledger to become the Joker. And
Mm.
at the time, just very similar to when Michael Keaton was casted as Batman back in 1989, a lot of people were against that. Instantly, they were like, "Wait, it's the guy from Brokeback Mountain, 10 Things I Hate About You, A Knight's Tale. You're casting him as the Joker?" I'm like, "Oh no, 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 no." Now, at the time, I didn't know who Heath Ledger was.
Mm.
So this is the first performance I'm seeing from Heath. But I say when the first trailer started to come out for this movie, and we actually saw him, in the paint and in the makeup and the get up and seeing his actual performance in the trailer, everyone shut up from that point on, and it was like,
Pretty
whoa, wait a
much.
minute. It's like, wait a minute, what is this?
Well, the funny thing for me was I wasn't that opposed to Ledger's casting as the Joker because I had seen several of his movies. I'm like, this guy can seriously act. So was more I was more accepting of seeing what he could do. And like you said, when the trailer started to come out, we see the clips of him. You're like, holy shit,
It's like,
this
this is
guy,
Heath?
this is good. This has the potential to be something special, and it turned out to be something special, honestly.
Yes, yes. I was, as a lot of people, really excited to see this film. Um, Man, and I remember seeing this in the theater, and I was blown away once again. I loved it. Um,
Mhm.
at the time, I thought, it. At the time, I thought it was my favorite of the trilogy. Like, man,
Mhm.
just from a direction standpoint, from the performances, I felt like there was a lot of things they did better than Batman Begins, and
Mhm.
as for a lot of people, and this like really has changed the landscape of how we look at comic book films. Like we actually could take comic book films seriously. It did start with Batman Begins, but this one really cemented it. Like this movie didn't even feel like a comic book film. Like if
Yes.
yeah, if no one knew who Batman was, this came out just how it is, like I still think people would have loved it.
Oh
So
yeah. Well, here's the
I
thing.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Dale. No, go ahead, please. It's all right.
Okay. Okay, so I will say though, watching it rec- watching it recently, I do start to notice some things that personally bothered me. Um
Hmm.
I don't think this movie is perfect like a lot of people say it is. It's not a bad movie at all. It's still a very well made film, but to me, I don't. There's some stuff structure wise and narrative wise that I feel wasn't as tight as it was in Batman Begins. Um,
Okay.
and as great as Heath Ledger's performance is, I feel like his performance is overshadowing a lot of things in the film. Um, but I still think it's a very good movie. We'll get into the details as we go along. But yeah, I'm sorry I
Mhm.
cut you off. What were you going to say,
No,
Ambassador?
yeah, it's okay. You know, I here's the thing for me. Do I acknowledge that every movie has issues, even movies I consider to be perfect or near perfect? Of course, every film is going to have flaws. And would I agree that Ledger's performance does overshadow Bale's and even uh, Aaron Eckhart's performance? Also, you got Maggie Gyllenhaal taking up the role of Rachel Dawes. Yeah, his
Mhm.
role does kind of overshadow everybody else, but I think in a way that's sort of deliberate because we know Bruce, we know Batman, we know what he's all about, and we still connect with him on his journey in this film. And I think, for me at least, the title The Dark Knight is very obviously very appropriate. And let me explain why. Bruce is very brooding and somewhat dour in this film. And the reason why is he has come to realize he's going to have to cross lines and do things that he wouldn't normally necessarily do on an ethical or moral level because of the Joker's actions. And the Joker is the catalyst for why Bruce is so dour and so kind of depressed. Because as much work as Bruce slash Batman has done in Gotham, you have one guy come onto the scene that's almost the polar opposite or the negative image of Batman. And as Alfred said so poignantly, and as the Joker reiterated, he just wants to see the world burn.
Mhm.
And that for me was the really powerful thing about this film. To look at it, I mean, I did my own review of Dark Knight and of the whole uh, trilogy and everything back last year. And hey, Ray, good to see you, dear. Appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
always.
I hope one day I can get Rhea on the stream. I really really want to talk some movies with her one day. So.
Yeah, I hope you're able to get that. I truly hope you're able to get that worked out. Um,
Yeah.
but the reason why I think the Dark Knight title is so appropriate, as I mentioned, is because Bruce is having to realize he's going to have to do things that he doesn't want to necessarily do because it goes against his creed as the Batman, and the Joker is pushing him to that breaking point, and Batman almost does it, but he also takes what seems like a victory for the Joker and is at the end able to turn it into a victory for not himself, but definitely for Gotham City. He's like, I can do the things that no. He's like, I can carry this burden that no one else can carry. Obviously, Harvey can't, Jim can't, but he can. And when you've got the dynamic of Harvey Dent, unfortunately, somewhat turned and everything, or starting to turn and does go full Two Face in this film, who isn't perfect, but he is a symbol, as Bruce says. And when you've got Jim, who's trying to do the best he can with the tools that he has, and unfortunately, the department that he has, as states, is still dealing with corruption. Bruce is the only one that, or Batman is the only one that can give them the leeway to do what needs to be done to help clean up the streets of Gotham.
Hmm. I definitely agree with that. What I did really like about the movie is like the dynamic between Harvey Dent, being the White Knight of Gotham, and then juxtaposing Bruce Wayne and Batman, having his methods of stopping crime in the city as well.
Mhm.
I would say Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, freaking great. He was
Yes.
amazing. Um,
Yes.
Probably the best Harvey Dent we've seen in live action. Um, Man, he was so charming. He was so likable, and like I really did like the dynamic between him and Bruce, and even there's some stuff with him and Rachel that I really liked as well. But like I really bought him as like this, the district attorney that everyone loves and everyone trusts him and everyone sees him as this positive role model. Like I really liked that, and
Mhm.
it made Bruce put into question like his purpose in being, a crime fighter in the city, seeing how well Harvey is doing his job, being like, does Gotham really need somebody like me? So I definitely liked all of that. Um, Bruce Wayne is Christian Bale is Batman and Bruce Wayne. Once again, really really good. Pretty much just adding on the stuff that I already loved about him in Batman Begins. Um,
Mhm.
there is one problem though. One slight
Okay.
problem. Well, a
Okay.
couple of things actually. Um, I do want to start with his suit. So what I said in in the previous stream is that I did really like his suit in Batman Begins. It was different from what we're usually seeing from a bat suit, but it's like I did really like that look, that all black look with the yellow belt and stuff like that. Even the logo is black, and yeah, the cowls was a little thick, but I think it added to how imposing he did look. Now we
Yes.
have the upgrade with this suit. Now I know a lot of people love this suit, and I definitely can see why. The neck, he can actually turn his head this time, and it looks more tactile and stuff like that. Me personally, I felt there's a little too much going on in this suit as far as the different pieces and textures and stuff like that. I feel it makes him look a little bit too chunky, and it also makes him look thinner at the same time. I don't know. To me personally, I feel like he looked a little more like Batman in this way.
Hmm.
This the suit's not bad. It's definitely, I think it's better than like a good amount of the Schumacher suits. But it's
Yes.
like, but I don't know. I just felt like I don't know. It feels like a little too much going on in the pieces and stuff like that. But how do you feel about the suit?
Honestly, I like both suits. I like the Begin suit, but I also like the Dark Knight suit, and obviously it'll carry over into Dark Knight Rises, obviously. Um,
Hmm.
for me, the design of the suit, it makes sense. The evolution of the suit definitely makes sense. Obviously, was some inspiration drawn from the Dark Knight Rises suits for Pattinson's suit for the Batman,
Hmm.
and that doesn't bother me because here's the thing: everybody's going to respond differently to design aesthetics. You look
Hmm.
at it, it bothers you. I look at it, it doesn't bother me. I think the one thing that the new suit does do is it gives Bale more range in terms of his performance because he's still protected, he's still got that menacing silhouette obviously, but it also, as I said, it gives him more range of motion, and obviously it gives more range in terms of his facial expression. Although you can't see the majority of his face in in the Batman suits. There's always been a lot of um, facial uh, motion restriction. With this suit, there isn't as much. The other costume that I can, and this isn't from a DC property, it's from a Marvel property. It's with Cyclops' costume design, in particular with his visor. And James Marsden, he had to kind of adapt how he acted because his face for the majority of the films, the X Men films that he's in, is his eyes are always covered. They're always by that visor. Now, granted, they did slim the visor down for X2, but he had to really work on his acting performance and how he could show his emotion just through his mouth movements and his how you jut your jaw out or whatever in particular when you're evoking an emotion. I think what the redesigned suit for the Dark Knight does is it gives Bale that same opportunity. Although you can still see his eyes, obviously, but his face is still concealed, so the jawline and the mouth and everything is more open to where it's much more expressive. That's the word I was looking for. It was much more expressive, and it does show obviously that Bruce is learning to adapt his role as the Batman, and obviously the evolution of his suit is part of that. As you said, it's more tactile and everything. And as Lucius Fox says, you're more vulnerable to bullets and knives, but because of the segmentation in the suit, but it also allows for greater range of motion for you so that you're more maneuverable. And I think Bruce realizes he can't always rely on brute force and brute strength to do what he does as the Batman. He's got to be more agile, he's got to be more mobile, and the suit does allow for that.
Yeah, so definitely in the context of the universe they're establishing, since they're trying to make Batman more grounded and realistic, it definitely
Mhm.
makes sense the upgrades for the suit. So,
Yeah.
um, okay, so oh, the second thing that bothered me about Batman, his voice. It wasn't it in the first movie. Like he did have have a raspy voice, but it didn't feel too much. Like there was the right balance, right? It didn't feel like he
Hmm.
was straining his throat. In this movie and in Dark Knight Rises, he's doing it too much. Like where did you just trigger? No, he sounded silly half the movie. Like, and he's giving these really serious monologues in the film, and he's actually talking to people, and it's like I can't help but feel like he sounds silly when he's talking to everyone else, and he's having that really dark voice and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know. It just felt it was over the top for me. I don't know why no one told him to. Okay, do that times 10. Like, no, I'm sorry. And that's been a
And
meme for and
mhm,
jokes, for all these
yes.
years. His voice because of this movie
Hmm.
and Rises. Why did no one think that that was a good choice? I don't know.
And I can, it will I say that the voice alteration for Dark Knight Rises bothers me. It kind of does, yes, because he is giving these really powerful um monologues throughout the film as Batman, and they do sound his voice does sound a bit ridiculous. It's almost like he was doing an exaggerated version of, if you ever watched the animated The Dark Knight Returns with Peter Weller, his performance, it almost felt like he was doing an exaggerated version of that particular voice that Peter Weller did so well for the Dark Knight Returns animated film. And it does somewhat detract from his performance. I will agree, and obviously it has become somewhat of a meme, somewhat of a joke, and that's sort of unfortunate because you got a character like the Batman after going through so much turmoil with the Schumacher films, whether you love them or hate them, or anything. We gave our thoughts on those films, obviously. To
Hmm.
see a bit of regression, and I think it was unintentional, obviously, to somewhat of a more memeable and jokey voice was unfortunate. And I would have preferred that he had just stayed with the voice that he had established in Batman Begins rather than taking it a step further. So,
But yeah, and then well, I'll get to the stuff that bothered me at the end later. But
hmm
other than that, I still really enjoy Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I still think he does a really good job in the movie, even though I felt like he felt like it felt like the Joker. and like the Harvey Dent stuff was like getting more a little bit more development than Batman himself. But I get, we already had a whole movie with Batman where we developed him from the ground up. So I get the story choice for the trilogy. It's just like I don't know. I felt like there could have been a way to incorporate this a little bit more. Um, Another thing that I felt was kind of it was off is Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel. Um,
Hmm.
I really liked Katie Holmes in Batman Begins. I thought she was a really good love interest and friend to Bruce Wayne in the first film, and I'm really picky when it comes to love interests with Batman, but she was one of
Yes.
the few that worked for me. Um,
Mhm.
Now I know, behind the scenes, Katie Holmes was dealing with stuff with Tom Cruise, and that's why she didn't come back for the rest of the trilogy, which I understand. It
Yeah.
really sucks that it happened. Um, but like Maggie Gyllenhaal, it's not that she was bad. She did a good performance for what she was given. It's just I feel like she was miscast. She doesn't feel anything like Katie Holmes. And like what I really liked about Rachel in the first movie, like you did feel that friendship between Bruce and Rachel. Like there was that warmth to her character. But at the same
Yes.
time, you knew she wasn't taking shit from anybody.
Hmm.
Maggie Gyllenhaal's performance feels very standoffish to everyone, especially Bruce Wayne. I did not feel that warmth that I got from her in the first movie. She felt like a completely different character. I don't know if this would have been better with a different actress or if the writing for her character in this movie was kind of off, but like I don't know. Maggie Gyllenhaal didn't work for me. I don't know.
Honestly, I'm, Jake Gyllenhaal. He's a good actor. He's done some good stuff in his career. I do like him for the most part as an actor. His sister, uh, I don't dislike her, but I have to I have to agree with you, DL. I do feel she was somewhat miscast, and I I look at her performance, 22 some odd years on, and yeah, she does come off as very standoffish to Bruce. And now, do I think his attitude towards her is unwarranted? No, because this is a lifelong friend. This is someone that he obviously loves. Now, obviously, she is in a relationship with Harvey Dent, but that doesn't mean she has to be so cold blooded to Bruce. I mean, they've known each other since they were kids, quite literally. Now, the one line that she says in this movie that really kind of soured me to her performance. Now, again, I don't, like I said, I don't dislike her performance. She does a good job. Do I think she could have done better? Sure. But when they're at the party of the fundraiser for Harvey and they're staying there out on the balcony and Bruce is talking about how Harvey is the future of Gotham and he can finally have he can have a normal life and Rachel says to him, "Don't look to me to be your one chance at a normal life." I'm like, "Good grief. Are you the same character? This is
Yeah,
your
cuz like
this is your lifelong friend. This is you grew up with this guy. Your parents or your mother at least worked for the Waynes. You grew up playing together on the Wayne estate. You came to regard each other as very good friends and now you're just I mean you can tell him, "Hey, I'm with Harvey. I want to be with Harvey. I will still be in your life, but you don't have to be so damn cold-blooded about this."
Yeah,
And the
especially in
letter
the last movie. I just want to mention this real quick. In the
Yeah, go
last
ahead.
movie, yeah, in the last movie, like the last thing that she says to him is that it felt like she was waiting for him, because she wanted him to quit being Batman and then they could be together because she was worried about his safety and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It felt like she never said that to him in this movie. Like that whole thing of like don't look to me for a normal life, but you're the one that like alluded to that in the last movie, so yeah, it did feel inconsistent, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, and even the letter that she gives to Alfred and eventually Alfred well, wait a minute, I can't remember. Does Alfred even give the letter? No, Alfred does give him the letter. I can't remember. But he gives it to him after the fact. I think it's after her death or somewhere
Yeah,
along those lines.
yeah.
And even the letter to Bruce just does not seem like something Rachel would say to him. No, I know friendships can evolve and change and everything, but that just seems like such a departure from how Rachel would be with Bruce, someone that she's known all her life, literally, and he's known
Mm.
all his, obviously. So yeah, that did bother me a little bit, but it is one of the small little nitpicks and everything of the film that I will say I didn't care for. I don't know if there was another actress that could have done a better job per se. I'm trying to think of some of the major actresses, or maybe even a lesser known actress could have done a better job than Maggie Gyllenhaal. But
Yeah.
it's I don't know if maybe it was the writing or maybe her performance, but yeah, it just seems like such a vast departure from what we saw in Batman Begins with Katie Holmes's role. Although I will say, and this is not, I hope this doesn't come off as too shallow, but Katie Holmes is a lot easier on the eyes than Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Wait, say it again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, it's okay. I said I hope this doesn't come off as being too shallow or anything, but Katie Holmes is a lot easier on the eyes than Maggie Gyllenhaal is.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. Um,
So
yeah, and not to say that Megan Gyllenhaal isn't an attractive woman, but like, come on, it's Katie
yeah,
Holmes. It's Katie Holmes, man.
yeah, exactly.
um,
So
but yeah, so and it was a shame because like I was actually like I think they could have really made an interesting love triangle between Bruce, Rachel, and Harvey. Like,
yes,
if Rachel felt more consistent with the first film, and it's like we still feel that friendship and connection between the two, like, but Rachel is still like still concerned about Bruce's safety and how he's going about fighting crime in Gotham. And you're looking at Harvey, and it's like he seems more like the hero for Gotham that we need. So it's like that could make that type of dynamic that could have been interesting, but I
yeah,
don't know. Um, okay, so to get more into the positives, um, okay. Yeah, we've already been talking about him already, but like just to get more into detail about it, Heath Ledger as the
yes,
Joker, bro.
yeah.
He felt like a completely different person, a completely different person.
Well, if you consider what he did for the preparation for this film, he, as in a lot of ways, was a different person. This performance literally changed him as an individual, and sadly, it was something he could never come back out of, which obviously stinks. But his
Mm,
performance, it's it's a masterclass in how to portray a character like this. It truly
mm,
is. I would say the only other actor who has done this good of a job of portraying someone that is as deranged and homicidal is Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. I would say that I'm not saying it's better than Anthony Hopkins, but I would put it in the same category or the same league. It's that good.
yeah,
And
I definitely see that.
this is for a comic book movie. That's
Yeah.
the truly amazing thing. This is for a comic book movie. This is for a character that, if you're a comic book fan or just either hardcore or casual, you know who the Joker is. And Ledger took the Joker and did something phenomenal. Obviously, he won a Academy Award posthumously for his part.
Hmm.
And every scene that he is in, he absolutely owns. And he's acting.
Yeah.
He's going up against some really solid actors in this film, and an actress. I mean, his scene with Maggie Gyllenhaal there at the party is it's creepy, it's unsettling, and it's devishly devilishly delicious
Yes. You
because
wanna
you
know how
just
I got these
got
scars?
these scars. Yeah,
Man, and it's like I like
yeah,
every time
that.
he's telling the story, it's something different. So it's like, what
Yep.
is he telling the truth or what? Like, what actually happened to him? I like that they kept very similar to how we usually know the Joker. Like they kept his origins like oblivious, and it's like we didn't get this
Hmm.
whole like backstory with him, and that's what made his character in this movie a lot more like mysterious and sinister because like you have no idea where this guy comes from.
Comes
His
from.
Yeah, like I
Hmm.
I really liked that this time, even though I did like the comic accurate, him falling into acid with Jack Nicholson stuff. He's still my favorite live action Joker,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
really
Hmm.
liked in this movie instead of doing that, since this is a grounded realistic take, they just had him like put scars on his mouth and put makeup on his face, and he's a terrorist. Like, and that fits
Essentially,
so well. Yeah, it fits
it
so
does.
well. Like you almost are like convinced that someone like this could pop up in real life. Like that's
That's
what's really
well,
scary about it.
it is. It truly is. I mean, because now a lot of people have done like theory videos on this version of the Joker, and some people have said that he might suffer from PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, and that he could potentially be a vet, a military veteran.
Mhm,
And you're like, if he has had to deal with a lot of psychological trauma during his years of service, considering his skill set, considering his aptitude with various types of weaponry, particularly knives, guns, explosives, and not to mention tactical strategy.
mhm,
Yeah, he could potentially this is someone that could potentially exist in real life.
mhm.
So,
I love his voice as well. Like the voice that he chose for the Joker, like it just fit him very well. It's like I am an agent of chaos. Like sometimes he gets high pitched, and then for the really dark moments, he gets down and bassy and scared. Like when he's on the news and he's like strapped this guy that's dressed up as Batman. And he's
mhm.
like messing with him. It's like look at me, and then I know where look at
Look at
me.
me.
I'm like, whoa! I freaking jumped in my seat when I saw that in the theater. But like, he knows how to go from really silly to like really scary, like on the
Yes,
click of a dime. Like, oh
on
my
the
god,
turn. Yeah, yeah.
it's just
On a turn of a dime, he Ledger's performance. When I went to see this, and me and a buddy of mine, we went to see this back in '08 in theaters, and we walked out and we were like, "Holy freaking crap! This is one of the greatest movies we've ever seen." I mean, there's a category of films I have, and while they are part of a particular genre or a particular franchise, I will remove them from that both of those categories, and I will say this is a great film just on its own. And The Dark Knight does stand in that particular category of films. And there's only the list is very short. It's like maybe 10 movies in total. And the other two films that stand as alongside The Dark Knight are Empire Strikes Back and The Wrath of Khan. They're not just great films in their own particular genres or their franchises, they are great films just on their own. And what Ledger was able to do was convey a sense of menace, but also a sense of uncertainty because you never knew what the Joker was going to do. Obviously, you knew it was going to be bad, definitely, but you
mhm,
didn't know how bad. And I will
mhm,
say this: one of my favorite scenes, and it's not. I don't think it's one of the scenes that a lot of people will key to, but it's the scene with the one mob boss, the Russian. I'll call him that.
mhm.
And they're in the warehouse with the giant mountain of money. And the Joker looks at him and says, "This city deserves a better class of criminal, and I'm going to give it to him. You tell your men they work for me now. This is my city." And the guy says, "My men won't work for a freak. He's like, a freak. He's like, how about we carve you up and feed you to your pooches, and we'll see how loyal a hungry dog really is.
And then he sets the
It's a,
whole hill of money on fire, and he's like, "It's
he's like,
not about
how about
money.
honey?
It's
It's
about."
about sending a message. Everything burns, just like Alfred said to Bruce in the secondary Batcave.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
Some men just want to watch the world
let the
burn.
world burn. Yeah. He's like,
Yep.
I'm like a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I even caught it. Do I look like a guy with a plan? If I were to say tomorrow, say that I'll blow up City Hall. I'm kind of paraphrasing. I hate to do this
Yeah.
because his lines are so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I were to say, I'm going to kill a couple of mob bosses, nobody's going to worry because it's all part of the plan.
Plan.
And even his scene with Harvey in the hospital when Harvey's restrained and he comes and he's like, "Hi," you're like, "Oh, good grief, this is not going to end well." Yep,
Bruh, he
that scene.
actually put on a nursing outfit with a wig.
Well,
It's
and
like,
not to mention Harvey Dent campaign sticker or button.
yeah.
Like,
Like, oh my god, this dude's insane.
yes, but the crazy thing is he is extremely capable, and it's that type of person that you really have to watch out for.
Exactly. Like to list off a few things that he does in the movie. He
Yep.
like the beginning, the opening sequence in the movie, which I really loved. He
Oh
has a bunch
yes.
of people dressed up with these clown masks, and they're doing this whole heist at a bank, and he's having each of the goons kill each other until it's only him left, and then he escapes off in a school bus, and then
Yeah.
and then he freaking what was it, was it like a funeral that was happening downtown or whatever, like with the soldiers
It
shooting
was
whatever.
actually it was the funeral for Commissioner Loeb, because if you remember that whole sequence where the judge and Loeb get taken out and they have the public funeral for Commissioner Loeb, and Harvey Dent speaks at the starts to speak at the funeral. Or no, it's the
Hmm.
mayor. It's the mayor that starts to speak at the funeral. And
Right. He
then
somehow,
you
without makeup, it's literally a split second you see him without makeup, but he somehow
yep.
disguised himself as one of the soldiers and attempted to assassinate what was it, Gordon or the mayor or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
that's freaking nuts. And then somehow he strategically made a plan to have Harvey and Rachel captured in different locations and forcing Batman and the police and Gordon to choose who is going to save them first before a bomb explodes and kills them both. And then
Yep.
he has a detonator like installed in two different yachts or ships or whatever, one filled with
Berries. Yeah.
prisoners. Yeah, one filled with prisoners and one filled with innocent people, and having each of them choose who's going to set the detonator on who, just to just to prove a point. And
Yep.
it's like, and then he blows up a hospital because a guy on the news was about to, like, I guess allegedly reveal Batman's identity on television. Like, he does so much shit in this movie. Like, for a man that says that he doesn't have a plan, he seems like
He
the
had a
perfect
plan.
strategic anarchist that is like one step ahead of everyone in this movie, and it was
Even
freaking scary.
even the Batman. Oh,
Even
and we've got a
Batman.
bot. And we've got a
Yeah, I'm not
bot.
highlighting that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'll report it
Um,
for you. Just give me a second. I just gotta
cool.
get
But like,
that.
yeah, even when he gets captured by Batman and Gordon, that was all part of the plan. All part of the
Mm-hmm.
plan.
Yep.
Like, it's nuts. It's freaking nuts what he does in this movie. Um, but yeah, man. To talk about some of the aesthetics and weapons and gadgets and stuff that Batman has. We did talk about it a little bit earlier about his alternative Bat cave. I actually really
Yes,
liked
which I
it.
loved. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
too. I really did. I mean, as Alfred said so perfectly, you can go from living in a penthouse to not living in a mansion to go to living in a penthouse.
Hmm.
And he's right. And honestly, I do love it all feels very oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Damn it. It's all very sterile. It all feels like it's been kind of jury rigged together, but it all works.
Hmm. Yeah, and I like that, it addresses the stuff from Batman Begins, because like in Batman Begins, his whole mansion got burned to the ground. So I like that
Hmm.
they're addressing the consequences from the last movie, that he's stuck with this until they rebuild the mansion. So I definitely appreciate that. And I think this takes place a year after Batman Begins. So yeah, I liked
Yes,
that.
because because the Joker, it's crazy how well you can do address a passage of time with just with a line of dialogue when the Joker says to the group, he's like, "Let's roll back the clock to a year ago. Most of these cops and lawyers wouldn't even touch any of you.
Hmm.
What happened? Did your balls fall off?" Just with one line of dialogue, you're like, okay, it's been a year since everything that happened in Batman Begins.
Hmm. Yep, that's a good way to give exposition without it feeling like it's being spoon fed to you.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I liked that. Um, I also liked the Bat Pod in this movie,
Oh
the
yes.
the motorcycle. After that, that chase with Joker in the truck, and like they actually blow up the tumbler in this movie, and I was
Yep.
shocked when that happened. And now the Bat Pod like comes out of the wreckage of the tumbler, which I thought was really cool, and that's what he's stuck with for the rest of the movie. So
Yep.
I really did like that. And it was an actual practical motorcycle, just like the tumbler. Like you actually see Christian Bale actually riding around this thing in the streets, and like it was just really cool. And the machine guns they had in the front, it was very very cool. Then that freaking stunt with the truck like flipping an
Oh
entire like
yeah.
90
Oh,
degrees.
that was.
They actually did that. They actually
Oh
had a
yeah.
truck flip over with the explosions and
Well,
everything, man.
yeah. They had to plan that thing out to meticulously because they were only going to be able to get one take because they couldn't keep
Yeah.
just flipping trucks over and over and over again. And if you notice, and they play it off and they disguise it relatively well. Once there is a explosive or a charge at the back of the trailer that propels the trailer up into the air and then it lands upside down, obviously. And there were so many moving parts to that particular set piece, but they pulled it off perfectly. Now, I will say this: me and my buddy, and it's still something I react to. After Bruce does that, and he kind of runs up the wall with the bat pod, and the wheel kind of swivels or whatever, and he pops down and just is sitting there. I'm like, I couldn't help but
Yeah.
chuckle. He's like, okay, I did my thing, and let's just. He's like, because I'm Batman. You're just thinking. He's like, well, that was just badass.
Yeah, that was freaking sweet. Um,
Yeah.
Now I do have to address this real quick for the people, for the no killing rule people that said that Batman doesn't kill. There's one thing I have to
Um.
address. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
When the tumbler comes in the tunnel, and like the garbage truck, he rams head first into the garbage truck with the tumbler with people in it. They're smushed. They're gone.
They're dead.
They're dead. Just want to say for people like Batman doesn't kill. Nope, that
Well,
just happened.
he killed in Batman Begins. He killed Raish. He's like, I don't have to kill you, but I don't have to save you. That's pretty much the same thing as killing him
Yeah,
because Raish is in a position where he's not gonna be able to get out of that monorail. No way. He's dead.
exactly.
Raish is
Hmm.
done. So yeah,
Exactly.
Batman, and you want to even go back to the Burton films. Batman kills. The
Oh,
only
yeah.
play
I did the kill count
the
there as well.
well, just in the ending fight alone, he kills all of Joker's goons there in Gotham Cathedral.
hmm
You know,
And
a
that
lot
that
of
one
people,
muscle dude in Batman Returns, he put a stick of dynamite in his pants, pushed him down, punched him down a well, and he blew up. And then he took the Batmobile and ignited the ignition in the Batmobile and set a guy on fire. That happened as well.
so yes, Batman does kill. Now, does he kill indiscriminately? No, he kills
No.
when he has to. Now,
Yeah.
does he kill the Joker in this film? No, but that was a choice that they made, I think, in light of Ledger's death and everything. They changed that part, and I'm okay with that change, honestly, because I do think it would have been too much. So
I mean, yeah, I get it. I don't want to get too much into that till we get to rises, but it's like, I don't know. It did feel kind of big. It did feel kind of strange that he let Ra's al Ghul die, but then he let the Joker live. That was just kind
yeah,
of strange to me. But I did get,
I get,
you know.
mhm. Yeah, I get what you're saying, DL. I do. So
And then there's another death that happens in the movie. We'll get to that later. That really made me mad, but we'll save that.
okay,
Um. Okay, so I another thing that I really liked was the sonar thing that he had towards the end. That was
oh
really
yeah,
really cool. And a little there was a little bit of an homage to the animated series and comics where they gave him the white eyes, and I really appreciated that. But the
yes,
sonar stuff I thought was really very cool. It reminded me of even though it's not really that great of a movie. Daredevil with Ben Affleck had the similar sonar thing. That's what instantly reminded me of when I
yeah,
first saw it. But it was very very cool, that whole sequence on the in the construction site. That was very cool. And speaking of that, Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, once again,
yeah.
very very good, very good.
Honestly, an unsung performance because Morgan Freeman in this role, his character goes through a very powerful evolution as well. He has a great character arc in this entire trilogy, and Morgan Freeman, he's had I think honestly a stellar career, and this is a great role for him. And I don't know if we'll get Lucius Fox in the Pattinson film or films if they do indeed carry on with the trilogy, but
Mhm.
I would not be opposed if they do introduce the character again of Lucius Fox. Obviously, we're going to get Alfred. Obviously, we're going to get Jim Gordon. But I think having Lucius Fox was another character for Bruce to play off of, and honestly, he did bring a lot to the character. So, but yeah, go ahead, DL.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And speaking of Gordon, uh, Gary Oldman is Gordon once again. Really, really good. He actually had some pretty badass scenes here and there, like capturing the Joker and stuff like that. You feel like his role is definitely elevated in this movie, even though he was important in Batman Begins. But in this one, he actually, got to steal a couple of scenes here and there. So I definitely liked him in
Yes.
this film. Um, okay, so what are the other scenes that well, we kind of lightly touched on. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is the interrogation scene. I think a lot of
Oh my
people,
gosh.
yeah, this scene was so good. Seeing Batman and Joker face to face, and them just like just talking at each other, especially the Joker, like calling him out, being like, "Why are you acting like a cop? You ain't a cop. You're not like them. You're a freak like me," And so it's like trying to stoop him down to his level of seeing how alike they are. Like they're both like seeing like they're agents of chaos and stuff like that. I really liked Joker getting under his skin and stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
and just seeing a Batman just getting more frustrated and pissed off to the point where he's just slapping around the room, and then Joker's just not responding to it like he wants it to. Like, you have nothing to use against me, even with all your
All
strength
your
and stuff
drink.
like that. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's yeah, totally.
yeah, yeah, it's real good.
Well, it just shows the absolute derangement of the Joker. It just shows how far he will go to achieve the goal of tearing Batman and Harvey Dent down and tearing Gotham City itself down. And it's a very disturbing scene. It's a very uneasy scene, and you have three different reactions in that particular scene. You have Gordon's reaction, which is, yeah, I'm just going to disengage from you and let somebody else that's better equipped to deal with you. Then, of course, you have the confrontation between between Batman and Joker, and of course, you have the confrontation between the one detective and Joker. And unfortunately, the only one that succumbs to the Joker's um, manipulation is the one detective, and it really shows just how twisted and how sinister the Joker truly is.
Who let that detective in that room? Like, who let that detective in that room? Why? Why? They should have just left him in the room by himself, man. You put anyone in the room with Joker, it's not gonna end well. It's not gonna end well.
Well, and here's the thing: that room was completely secured. There was, I know this might be a small little nitpick on my part, but that
Mm,
room was completely secure. There was no way the Joker was going to get out of there. You could have just left him in that interrogation room. It was secure. He wasn't getting out, and you had surveillance on him. He wasn't going to be able to really do anything. So there really
mhm.
was no need for that detective to be in there, except for, now obviously, for the story, for the plot to be uh, progressed, obviously. So
Yeah,
I can understand that, but at the same time, practically wise, and just looking at it from the perspective of real life law enforcement, you've got a prisoner secured. You don't need to do anything with him. You don't need to have a person watching him. So, but anyway,
yeah. I
that's my little.
definitely agree. Definitely agree. Okay, so now, okay, I've been saving it for this moment. Two Face. Harvey Dent is turning into Two Face. Okay, so I, if you guys know, Two Face is one of my favorite villains in Batman's Rogues Gallery. I was not a huge fan of him in Batman Forever, and I was disappointed we didn't get Billy D. Williams from the Tim Burton movies, but that's fine. But
Mhm.
as I said earlier, what they were establishing with Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, I thought was absolutely great, and I even liked that Joker was the one to turn him into Two Face. The way they handled that in the movie, I thought, oh wow, that was really good. That was really really good. And then Rachel in the getting caught in the crossfires as well. She dies out of nowhere, and it was such a tragic thing where they were like talking to each other through the intercom or whatever, and like
Mhm.
Rachel was about to say something like really important to him, and like midway through her sentence, I'm like,
Yep.
oh my god, not even letting her finish what she had to say. It's like just catch everyone off guard. And like we were thinking that like Batman and Gordon, they were gonna get there in time. They were gonna save them both in time, but it's like nope, nope, it's done.
No, and you know, to that's really the thing that pushed Harvey over the edge. I mean, obviously he gets burnt, he gets deformed or disfigured, and he loses the one person in his life that really matters to him. And then you have obviously the scene we referenced a little while ago with the Joker coming in, and the Joker just twists him and turns him, and he's like, "It wasn't me that did that. I was in Gordon's cage, and it was the crime bosses that did that to your woman." And he's like, whatever her name, he's like, Rachel.
Right.
It's like, Rachel. He's like, I didn't do that. I was under lock and key. He's like, be an agent of chaos. And Harvey buys into it hook, line, and sinker. He's like, yep. And some people say that his term was too quick, and I say
I don't think his turn was
Oh,
too quick. I felt like they got rid of him too quick. That was the problem for me.
yeah, that for me, that yeah, I have to agree. He his screen time as Two Face was too brief, but at the same time, you've got to keep the narrative tight. You've got to keep the story tight, and you've got to pick what you're going to put in the movie and what's going to be left on the cutting room floor.
Well,
And
that's
what the
where I'm
scenes?
gonna
Go
argue.
ahead,
Like,
Dale.
I'll let you finish. I'm just gonna say that I kind of like argue against that though. But go ahead and continue. But well, hold on, before you do, we have another guest coming in. We have,
Okay.
I think he's new to the stream. We have Thad Bays. What's going on, man?
Hey, Thad, good to
Hey,
see you,
what's
man.
up? What's up? How
How's
you
it
doing,
going?
DL?
I'm doing
Oh,
all
it's
right. I'm
going.
doing all right. Cool. But yeah,
The avatar pick. The avatar pick is a guy cosplaying the original Batman costume from DC Comics number 24.
sweet, sweet, sweet.
Yeah, Thade, it's
But
good to see you again, man.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing okay. I saw you over on Josh's stream earlier, so good to see you again. Good to talk to you. So, but go on.
yeah,
So,
yeah, go. You were gonna say something, Bastard. Go ahead.
um, well, the scenes that we got with Harvey and both as Harvey and as Two Face, I think were very powerful and really conveyed the turn that Harvey had gone through in a very succinct and powerful way. But at the same time, yeah, I agree. I wish they hadn't killed his character off. But for the sake of the narrative, I do understand why. So anyway, that
And
was my
so
two.
I counter to that argument to where like I think there could have been a whole lot more they could have done with this character. I know it's like we mainly have to keep it focused with the Joker and stuff like that, which is fine. But like, you know, since they already captured him at the end, all was left was him. I think they could have. Here's the one thing that you know that made the Dark Knight Rises kind of flawed. Like, okay, if they didn't want to bring the Joker back because of Heath Ledger's passing, that's completely understandable. But you had a already very well developed character slash villain with Harvey Dent and Two Face that they could have used for the third movie. And I just feel like that
Mm-hmm.
was a complete waste just killing him off like that. And I'm not just saying that because like Two Face is one of my favorite villains. Like that was a very rich and fleshed out character they had, and Nolan just got rid of him. And Batman's the one that kills him, pushes him off of a building. I'm like, I don't know. That just still made me upset. You know, like it was just a waste. It was just a waste. I don't know why Two Face keeps getting this disrespect, man. I can't deal with this man.
Well, and
Uh,
He keeps
go ahead,
taking
Thade.
a fall.
Oh, Lord. Thade. Really, dude? The thing I would say is if you look at Harvey's character and if he had been the one in the role of the judge for the Citizens Court or whatever, or Bane's Court that's set up in the Dark Knight Rises, oh man, that would have been a million times better than having the Scarecrow doing it.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that would have been.
random. Oh, by the way,
That would have.
Scarecrow is in this movie. He wasn't like in the opening fight sequence with Batman. It was like,
Yes.
oh, okay. They brought him back for a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, I loved that opening sequence. Well, the opening sequence with Batman and in the parking garage,
Yep.
and I told you my compound would take you places. I didn't say it would necessarily be places that you wanted it to go. And the Chechen, I think that's what he's called. The one crime boss.
Hmm.
He's
Yeah.
like, my business is repeat customers. Look what your compound's doing to them. He's like,
If you don't like my business, you could take it somewhere
he's
else.
somewhere else. That's if the band has left anyone else for you to work with. And okay, I will say this one of my favorite lines and everything in that particular scene is when the Scarecrow or Jonathan Crane says, "That's not Batman," and then the Batman actually shows up, and there's just a touch of trepidation, a touch of fear still in his voice from his encounter with the Batman when he's exposed to his own fear toxin. He's like, "That's the Batman." And he said,
Yeah.
I can't do it as well as the actor did and everything, but yeah, he was
I,
yeah, he
I
was
have
like,
to say this. That movie is infinite. There's so many good quotable lines in that movie.
Oh, in The Dark Knight? Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stranger.
Stranger.
We're only trying to help you. I don't need help. What makes you different from you and me? I'm not wearing
hockey pads. No, you're wearing a Nomex survival suit, which you got from Wayne Enterprises, which makes sense because you're Bruce Wayne and you have access to it.
Right.
Exactly. So, but Thad, since you're here, tell us your history with this movie. How you felt about it and stuff like that.
Oh well, when I first heard it announced, and because I'm my favorite villain in all of comic books, Marvel, DC, anything, is the Joker. And when I heard announced that it was Heath Ledger going to play the Joker, I was just like, the what? How, what? That's just not going to
like
work.
Everyone else, like what?
Like seriously, I was like sitting. I was at my dad's place, and I was walking by, like he was watching he had the news on, but like some entertainment shit came on after the news, and I was walking by it, and I heard Heath Ledger play the Joker, and I stopped. I was like, what they say? And my dad was like, oh, Heath Ledger guy playing the Joker or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, that's just not going to work. And I walked off. But, as is my nature, I gave the movie a chance, and he blew me away. He really did. Probably one of the best performances in that movie. I have to say, I like Darren Eckhart as Harvey. I don't, I'd watched the first movie. And this one to me, the first movie was a little disjointed.
Really?
But this movie seemed a little bit more together to me, though. Like,
and I'm the opposite. I feel like this movie's a little more disjointed than the first film. That's just me.
To each their own, But yeah, this movie was a little bit more together than the first one. Now, hot take. I have never seen the third movie.
You never seen Dark Knight Rises? Okay.
No, I know what happens. It's been years, so spoilers happen all the time. But like, I've never actually sat down and watched that movie.
Well, hey, if you get a copy of the movie, watch it before the stream tomorrow. I'd be very interested to see how you feel about it.
I could probably watch it tonight, actually. I've got ways of streaming movies, if you catch my meaning.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly kosher ways of streaming movies.
We do not condone any illegal activity on this channel.
We be pirates here.
That's interesting, though. That's interesting because, like, for most people, like they at least watch Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. It's a trap. I actually know people who have watched Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises and have never seen Batman Begins. But I've never heard of anyone saying when they watch Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and they haven't watched Dark Knight Rises. That's really interesting.
Well, I honestly, the only reason I did not watch Dark Knight Rises is when it was out, I was having some issues and I was actually at rehab. And since I've been out, it's never crossed my mind to actually sit down and watch it after I heard what happened in it. But I don't know. I've been thinking about, since all the Batman stuff out here lately, that I would, give it a chance finally, I guess. Because it's about the only Batman movie I've never watched, to be honest.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, but yeah, so getting back to Two-Face and the ending. How did you guys feel like that Batman was going to retire in the second movie? And keep in mind, Christopher Nolan did not have any intentions to make a third film at the time. So this was going to be it. And he retired the character in the second film. How did you guys feel about that?
I don't know. The only part of that movie I did not like was the end. I felt like you, DL. He had such an interesting villain with Two-Face, and Aaron Eckhart pulled it off well. and him just dying, within like I guess 40 minutes of becoming the Two-Face just didn't work for me. Um, I mean, I kind of get what Nolan was going with it, I guess, but it didn't combine well with the rest of the movie, in my opinion. Like turning he could have turned Batman into a pariah other ways than just having him take the fall for what Two Face did. The whole he had to become the villain so the Gotham could be protected. Blah 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 blah. That it's kind of a twisted viewpoint, to be honest. As for Batman retiring, doesn't seem like Batman to me. 80 years of Batman comics. Guy's been beaten to hell and back, never retired. Had his back broken by Bane, didn't retire. Lost people, didn't retire. I killed Harvey. I've got to retire. Oh no! Like it didn't feel right to me. It just didn't.
You didn't retire after Rachel dying, but no, Harvey was the last straw. Like what?
Right, like.
But I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
I kind of get what. Like, look, from just the playing devil's advocate here, from his point of view, I could see why he would retire, because Harvey was supposed to be the hope of Gotham. Harvey was the White Knight, and I could see where maybe the emotional side of Bruce Wayne would be like, there are no more heroes. Mm-hmm. But the pragmatic side of Bruce Wayne should have gone, well, at least I'm here.
Right. I mean, he's the only one left. Like, it'll be one thing if Harvey was still alive, and he's like, I got to retire because I'm causing too much mess. But no, Harvey's gone. And, like, you're the only, like, defender of the city now. So it's like, I don't know. It just felt strange. I mean, I get, like, he lost.
And in a way, I feel it was slightly irresponsible because he said so many times during the first two movies, Gotham breeds insanity, Gotham breeds chaos. And just to quit when you didn't solve any problems, you didn't solve what was going on. Gotham was still Gotham. You didn't fix Gotham by having Harvey die.
Right.
So
and it's like I know, like, he's feeling the traumatic stuff of losing not only Harvey but like Rachel as well. So I guess that could probably add to his trauma and stuff like that. But he's lost much worse than that. I'm sorry, but it's like I don't think that would have been enough to be like, I'm done. I don't know.
Well, like I said, go back to the comics. He lost Jason, his second Robin, another son. He watched the kid the kid got beat to death with a crowbar by the Joker and blown up. He carried his body out of that warehouse, and he didn't quit. He's lost so many people in the comic book history, and like in the publication history of the comic book. He never quit because he always said, I have to keep going regardless. And yet this movie, with the events of this movie, broke him. And also, why would you quit when you know that Arkham Asylum is full of bad guys? And at that point, the Joker was still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I can understand where you're coming from, Thade. I can understand where you're coming from, DL, with that. I mean, because I don't know the entire history of the character of Batman, but I know a good chunk of it enough to know that, yeah, he has suffered a lot of loss in his lifetime, both as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. And if anything, it's only made his resolve stronger. And do I think that this Bruce Wayne / Batman is kind of weak? No, but I do believe he is more, in a way, he's more believable, because when a person suffers so much trauma in their lifetime, they do reach a breaking point. And for Bruce Wayne, this was his breaking point. He failed to save Harvey. He failed to save Rachel, a woman that he has known all his life, who he loved. and maybe it was just too much for him. And he even says it to Alfred. And I think it's a very poignant, a very powerful line. He's like, I now see what I would have to become to deal with men like the Joker, and he's like, I can't do it. And Harvey at that point had been deformed and was being manipulated by the Joker at the same time. So it's a catch-22. Bruce knows that he probably shouldn't quit, but at the same time, when does it become too much for a person to bear? When does the burden become too much for a person to bear, even for Batman? And obviously, this is a different iteration of Batman. This is a different adaptation on the character. And while it does have some roots in the comics, obviously, this is its own adaptation. This is Christopher Nolan / Christian Bale's take on the character. And, you know, men and individuals who work in law enforcement, they see so much. I mean, let's be honest here. People who work in law enforcement, they see the ugly side of humanity a lot of the time, more so than any other person possibly should.
I saw the ugly side of humanity every day at work. I worked for the coroner's office.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and I get it. I do. And from a human perspective, I understand. I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know Nolan was going for more realism with his trilogy. And just speaking from my own experiences, I have severe PTSD. I've seen the dark side of humanity. I've lost a shit ton of people, especially here recently in my life.
Yeah.
But there is a resolve.
There is.
To where it comes like you want to give up, but you can't. And I'm not even Batman, okay?
And that's the thing we have to put into question now, looking at how much comic book movies have evolved and stuff like that. In do filmmakers and writers and stuff like that, do they feel like the only way for people to take comic book movies seriously is if they have to make it very grounded and realistic, or can there be a balance between the comic book influences and the grounded nature of a movie? So it's that's one thing I feel like certain comic book films kind of muddle the waters a little bit to making characters too realistic or too grounded or too dark where it doesn't feel like the character. So that's one, even though the Dark Knight has become a huge influence with comic book films, it could be a good thing. It's mostly a good thing, but it sometimes could be a bad thing, so it's that's one thing I put into questions nowadays is you don't have to sacrifice the integrity of the material in order for us to really feel what they're feel what the characters are feeling. I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna mention the Marvel movies here, and I know you're not real fond of them, DL. I know.
No, but I do. Okay, let me put this out there. I do enjoy Marvel. I do enjoy the Marvel films. They're like the other side of the spectrum, being where I feel like they could take their material a little bit more seriously because they're a little too silly and a little too whimsical at times. But I still enjoy them for the most part. Yeah.
Take for example Tony Stark. Okay, the whole reason Tony did everything he did.
I was going to bring that up.
In the Avengers movies is because he was a futurist, and he saw with the Chitauri invasion, he saw the possible ending of the world. Okay, and there's a very neat meme I found here recently. It said since Tony feared to put a suit around the world, which is what his plan was, the suit around the world thing that he did. Then he made Ultron and fucked it up and all that. He said, so since he could not put a suit around the world, he put suits around those he cared about. And then the picture shows Rhodey, it shows Pepper, it shows Peter, and it shows his daughter. And the daughter, not so much, but it shows the daughter's wearing the helmet, like it happened in Endgame. But everybody else around Tony, after that situation, he started putting them in Iron Man armors. Pepper had the rescue armor. He put Spider-Man in the Iron Spider armor, Rhodey's War Machine armor. You know, everybody around him, since he couldn't put a suit of armor around the world, he put a suit of armor around those he cared about.
Yeah.
Tony was suffering severely from PTSD after the whole Chitauri invasion and everything else, and there was there's a lot of realism in the Marvel movies if you look aside the whimsical shit. Like even like characters like Drax, who are very whimsical. Even you can see, even in him, you can see the humanity. He misses his family. He wanted to go after Thanos because Thanos killed his family. There's a very human element to the Marvel movies that I don't always see with the stuff from DC. Now, I will give the Nolan movies are a little bit more human, and I get it. You know, all of my argument earlier aside, I understand kind of why Bruce quit. Okay, I get it. You do have breaking points, and I can't even give my own experiences to base around his, because I'm far too pragmatic for my own good, to be honest. I won't give up regardless of what's going on in my own mind. That doesn't mean that I don't want to, but I have a no quit personality.
Yeah,
but that
like,
being
I'm
said,
feeling like it's a similar thing like with Spider-Man as well. He's lost just as much, if not more, than Bruce Wayne when it comes to, like, you know, people that he cares about, stuff like that. But he doesn't stop. I mean, okay, Spider-Man 2, he stopped for a little bit, but he went right back to it within the same movie. So it's like I'm looking at
and
that where it's like, if Spider-Man doesn't quit, why
well,
is
that's
Batman
another
quit? You know?
that's another example you can give. Like, even with the new Tom Holland Spider-Man, he lost his Uncle Ben before we I mean, we didn't get to see that, but he lost his Uncle Ben. He's mentioned. Then he loses May in this movie.
Yeah.
He's also lost Mr. Stark. And then at the very end of the movie, he loses basically the whole world because nobody remembers Peter Parker.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, in essence, Peter lost everything, but he seems to be okay. He seems to be handling it. Now we'll have to wait and see what this next Spider-Man movie is gonna give us. But at the end of No Way Home, he seemed to be functioning.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how well in the upcoming films. And you know, sorry, you bring up a very good point, and I was actually going to bring this up. You know, if you look at 2008, there was another very extremely influential comic book movie that came out that same year, just a few months before, and that was, of course, Iron Man. And if you parallel both of these films, both the character of Tony Stark and of Bruce Wayne, they are characters that have experienced loss, they have experienced both physical and emotional trauma, and are trying to do what they can to deal with those things. And I'd say that just as much The Dark Knight, Iron Man also went to great lengths and has had a great impact upon humanizing these fictional characters and making them relatable, not just for us as fans of these universes, but for the general audience as well, because we can relate to these characters. Not so much the situations that they get into, but on an emotional level, we can very much relate to what they have had to deal with in their lifetimes, because each of us to one degree or another have had to deal with this as well. And whereas Tony Stark is a little more irreverent, a little more jovial, and I think that's a coping mechanism for dealing with his own trauma, Bruce is the polar opposite. There is no humor. There is no necessarily any warmth to him. But we can understand why.
But with Tony Stark, though, as he goes forward in the MCU movies, you start seeing that jovial manner disappear.
Yes,
you start seeing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you still see that. You see that playboy slowly burn off. That devil may care attitude slowly burn away. Even to the extent that when they come to him in Endgame and say, "We need your help." At first, he doesn't want to do it. He says, "No, I'm done. I'm not Iron Man anymore."
Mhm.
But that being said, he still came back. He still knew what he had to do.
Mhm.
But again,
Which
you're
is
talking
what
two
brings us
different
to
human beings.
Rises, but we'll get there when we get there.
But like I said, again, two different human beings.
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely see what you guys are saying. Looking at it, from a realistic standpoint, there does come a point where, you know, Batman will feel like enough is enough, or feeling like what he's doing isn't good enough, or he's causing more harm than good with him just being, just him existing is causing like like it's causing more villains to come up and with stuff like that. So I totally see that. For me, it is still kind of jarring that we just got to know this version of Bruce Wayne as a character, and in the second movie, as I said, Christopher Nolan had no intention of making a third film. Just to have him, would end the character in the second movie where I feel like we just started to like really get to know him and like spend actually see him being a hero of Gotham. Like I just feel like he needed more time. I think he just needed one more movie. And I don't know. I will get more into that when we get into Dark Knight Rises. But it's like I thought it was fine for the story Nolan was telling, but as a Batman fan, I'm like it at the same time just feels off. It feels off.
And that was actually something that just came to mind for me. Uh, and this is the difference in the Nolan films version of Batman and the Batman of the comic books and other media. Even it's like Batman thrives off of the things that happen to him. So like there's a line, and I'm using another superhero movie for this. There's a line in Blade Trinity
Mhm.
when Whistler's daughter loses her friend, when Drake, comes in and kills everybody that they left back at the hideout, and she's holding her friend's body, and Blade says, "Use it. Use the
Yeah.
pain. Don't let it destroy you." Batman
Yep.
has had a habit through his publication history and through his other media history of using the pain instead of letting it destroy him.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Well,
I
sorry,
I
go ahead.
think they kind of didn't do that with this Nolan Batman. It was like it was a shock to his system. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
It's all
Totally.
about it with Bruce, just making Bruce more human than how we usually see him in other depictions.
Right.
um, which I definitely appreciate. Because I did even feel that in Batman Begins, like he did feel more like a relatable human type of Bruce Wayne than what we're usually getting. Which
Still a
again,
badass though. Still a
still a
badass though.
badass, still a
Yes.
badass. Absolutely,
I
absolutely,
don't I don't think I don't think anybody joins the League of Assassins without being a badass. I mean,
You think?
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So I think we covered quite a bit with this film. Is there anything you guys want to mention before we start, tying things down a little?
I wanted to bring up Heath Ledger again,
Okay.
and just the magnificent way that he had of taking on the character of the Joker. He wrote this notebook, and he shut himself away for weeks at a time in a hotel room, just like making these notes and trying to get into the head of the character. And people that have looked at that notebook said that there was some quite some disturbing things in that book. And he was, a lot of people have posited, because he passed away, unfortunately, after the making of the movie. And people have posited whether the part maybe was responsible for his death. I don't think it was. And his own family even said that they didn't think that he was happy about the movie and all that, and he was happy that it got finished and all. I just think it was a unfortunate accident. But what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that, you guys? Do you think that getting into the character was part of the problem that caused him to die, or I mean, like, what's your opinion on that?
I mean, it's it's hard to say because like we don't have all the details. I mean, that definitely could be a possibility. Because like at the time, no one really went this hard with the Joker before. As I said, I didn't feel like I was watching Heath Ledger. It felt like a completely different person. And it's like you can only imagine because I guess he was touching into some of the method acting I feel, and it's like you can only imagine how far he had to go to actually get into that mindset. But at the same time, as you mentioned, like he seemed very ecstatic to play the role. He was very ecstatic when he first watched the movie and seeing his performance and stuff like that. He seemed really excited, so it's not like he was scared or ashamed of it. So I don't know. It's kind of muddled. I'm not sure.
Well, I come from an acting background. Now, I've never been in any like major movies or anything, but I've been a stage actor in the past, and I know about getting into roles, and some of it can be very taxing depending on who you're playing or whatever. And I've kind of played around with the whole idea of Joker because, like I said, favorite villain ever,
Mhm.
and you kind of set yourself in a weird mind space when you play the Joker, to be honest, because it's like you're playing with somebody that's almost not insane but hyper sane. It's like he's a psychotic, but he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
And if you look at the psychology of the Joker, it's very like they've said a few times in the people who have studied the character over the years of his publication and everything have said that it's not like he's crazy. It's not like he's insane. It's almost like he's hyper sane and it's just wrong to the rest of us. He's more sane than sane. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
And getting into the mind space to portray a person just like the Joker is very difficult. And it can give you a strange mindset. And that's why I worry that he might have put himself in a weird mindset. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily that he was suicidal or anything, but it might have shifted the way he thought playing that part. I've often wondered, and if I were in better shape and health, if the chance ever presented itself, I might actually try to play the Joker because, again, I kind of get a unique mindset on how the Joker works. But like, I don't know, can roles have that effect on actors? Is the question I'm really trying to ask. Do you think that the guys who played Batman over the years have tapped into the darkness of Batman? Is the question.
Yeah, how do you feel, Ambassador?
Um. Well, I've kind of talked about this, I think, before you came in, Thade. I do think that I don't think it was the main contributing factor to Ledger's death, but I do think it was a contributing factor to his death. Now, obviously, I don't think he deliberately took his own life. I think it was an unfortunate accident. But if you look at the um, the status of his mental state, potentially from being secluded for weeks on end, and then portraying this character and him having to take some of the medications that he was taking just to function and to sleep at night and everything. I think the role, as you said, was taxing for him because, for the most part, a lot of the roles he had played before this were very well adjusted and not as mentally draining on him. But when you have an actor like him who is very much a method actor and he gets into a role, you almost take on a portion of that role into yourself. And yeah, I think, as I said, to come back to my main point, I believe it was a contributing factor, but not the factor for why he is no longer with us.
Well, he was on Ambien, and I've taken
Hmm.
Ambien in the past for some psychological issues.
Hmm.
And it's like DL said, you did not see Heath Ledger when you looked at that character. You saw the Joker.
Yep.
And you watch actors all the time, and you're like, oh, that's so and so wearing a mask, basically. But I did not
Hmm.
see any of Heath in the Joker at all. And that's
Nope.
one of the few roles, in all my years on watching, all my years watching movies, TV shows, and all that. I've very rarely seen an actor get that deep into a role.
Hmm.
So he might have had some disquiet in his mind after that role. I would have. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really the
And
closest
I feel
like
like I
sorry, go
feel
ahead.
some of I feel some of the men who have played Batman might have had some disquiet in their minds too,
Yeah, I was about to
because
say like I felt like the closest I've seen where it seemed like they were going through a similar thing. I mean, not to the obviously not to the extent of people that I don't think anyone is, but it's like I felt like Ben Affleck as Batman, like I feel like he was like really trying to commit to the role harder than any of the other um actors who played Batman. And you've seen that like, behind the scenes. Like it didn't help that there was like a bunch of crazy stuff happening behind the scenes, but it's like him even just like getting into like the physical state of Batman, like it took a toll on his body as well. And it's like he already dealing with alcoholism and stuff like that. But when we see him in Batman and Superman and Zack Snyder Justice League and stuff like that, I didn't feel like I was watching Ben Affleck. It felt like it was Bruce Wayne. Same thing, especially when he was Batman. He felt like a completely different person when he was Batman. So it's like I don't know.
I could
That's
see it
I
in I could see it in his Bruce Wayne. Like when he's talking to Alfred about how he felt that they were villains, and Alfred was trying to tell him, we're the good guys, basically. And
Hmm.
when he's talking about that, 20 years we've worked in Gotham, how many of our friends are still the good guys and how many aren't? And it's like you could see I wasn't seeing Ben Affleck playing Bruce Wayne. I was seeing Bruce Wayne. And
Yeah.
if you notice though, a lot of these actors that become the roles they play end up having issues later on. Like you said, Ben was going through a hell of a lot when he was playing Batman. And I think that's part of why he wants to take a break from Batman at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that not so much that the parts contribute, but that maybe that they put themselves into the role too much that it changes the person and not the character.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's another thing to take into consideration, um, with these roles. And I personally feel like I know a lot of people wouldn't have liked this, and I totally understand why. But I do feel like someone could have came in and you know reprised Heath Ledger's Joker. I feel like there's someone out there who could have done a similar job. No one can replace Heath Ledger at all, but like I do feel like there's someone out there who could have like
Hmm.
helped carry out the role after his passing. But I know it's a
Oh, it's
sensitive
very
subject.
possible. It's very possible.
Yeah. Um. But yeah. So I think we're going to start closing things down now. Start getting closing thoughts and grades. Um. So yeah. Overall, I do really enjoy this movie. It's a very important film, not only for the comic book genre but for films in general. Literally the first movie to be nominated for awards, a comic book movie to be nominated for a bunch of awards, and deservedly so. Specifically with Heath Ledger. Um, man, there's a lot of things that I thought they did better than Batman Begins as far as the direction, how it's shot, the performances. Another thing we didn't mention, the score in this movie, I also thought was very good. Specifically
Oh.
with Joker's like that thing in the
Yeah.
background, like
Yep.
man, that
Yeah.
helped build tension and stuff like that. And it was added, and of course we heard similar things from Batman Begins as well. But like I love the like this time around they didn't like they didn't play the score throughout. There's sometimes where they just let scenes be with play without music, which helped build tension as well. And then the constant Joker at the end when he's about to do something crazy. So it's like I liked how they incorporate the score in this movie as well.
As I was coming in, you guys were talking about like scenes that you liked. I think one of my favorite scenes in this movie is the whole sequence with the bank robbery at the first, like where each of the henchmen are like off in each other.
Yeah, it's like you
take
must
out
sense
the
him.
bus driver.
Like, bus driver? What bus driver? Yeah,
but my favorite line out of this movie is when Batman's got him in the interrogation room and he slams his head into the table, and Joker's like, "Never start with the head. Victim gets all fuzzy. Can't feel the next." And then Batman slams his fist into his hand, and he goes, looks at his hand, he goes, "See."
exactly.
That line is that just shows like, what are you trying to do? Kill me? I don't want to kill you.
Kill you?
What would I do without you?
Don't you go back?
You
complete me.
Complete me.
And there's so many quotable lines in this movie, man.
Or the line about chasing cars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to put my own point on the score, they did the Joker's theme deliberately, and what they did was they took a single violin string, if I remember correctly, and they ran I think like a razor blade or something along it just to get that uneasy pitch, and it was
they were doing it to be very discordant because that was supposed to show his mindset.
Exactly.
The chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, who else? If I remember correctly, Hans Zimmer did the score for this film, and of course, another Hans Zimmer masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
The man is the modern era, or is the successor to John Williams when it comes to cinematic scores.
Did you hear that? Did you hear the score he did for Dune, for the most recent Dune movie?
You're talking about one of my favorite movies from last year. I was so happy to hear that movie got nominated for so many awards, and I hope it wins. I don't care about the Oscars themselves, but I will catch the recap, and I'll be like, please tell me it won. Please tell me it won. I'm even happy that, and this is a movie I know not everybody liked from last year, but I absolutely loved. I was happy to hear that Cruella got a couple of Oscar nominations. I hope it wins too.
Yeah, I was surprised about that. The only movie I'm upset that it got nominated for anything was Don't Look Up. I'm like, why is this nominated? No, just no.
I don't care.
And
it's a Netflix film. Who cares?
You snubbed Tick Tick Boom? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, man? That made me mad.
I know it's a hot take because a lot of the Marvel movies from last year just weren't up to par, but like, I liked Shang-Chi. Like,
I did too.
Yeah, I really liked Shang-Chi too.
I thought it was a good movie. Now, that being said, though, I can get why people weren't on the level with it because, not a lot of people knew who Shang-Chi was. But, like, and just to prove I'm not a Disney simp, I didn't like the Eternals. And I thought that Black Widow was too little too late. But, like, there were so many missed opportunities with the Eternals.
I mean, I like Eternals, but I understand it has problems.
I will say this.
Well, no. Look. That movie was beautiful. That movie was beautiful as hell. It was pretty. Yes, Tick Tick Boom was great. But no, that movie was pretty. I just think that they gave Chloe Zhao too many characters to deal with as a up and coming director. It's an ensemble movie.
Yeah.
She should have been working on like one or two characters. She shouldn't have had that many characters to have to make stories.
As much as I enjoyed Eternals, I will agree here on that. Yes, because that movie, Some people have said the movie would have worked better as a Disney Plus series or something along those lines, or maybe as multiple movies rather than just one. Now, did I get Eternals on 4K? Yes, I did. Did I enjoy Eternals? Yes, I do. Do I acknowledge it has issues? Of course. Every movie I watch, I'm cognizant. Okay, here's what potentially some other people are going to say, and here's what I think about it as well. I mean, this is a stance I've always had, and it's one that I carry forward. It's a cornerstone of my channel and of my own personal beliefs. We do not love a thing because it is perfect. We love a thing in spite of its flaws. And now
Exactly.
is Eternals in my top 100 or my top 50 of films that I love? No, it's not, but it's a highly enjoyable movie. It's not dreadful, it's not awful. It's certainly not Batman
Well,
and Robin.
okay, don't get me wrong. Don't get me
No,
wrong.
I'm not.
What I said about it doesn't mean I didn't like it.
Oh no, I understand
It was
exactly
beautiful.
where you're coming from. Dave. Yes.
Cinematography wise, it was beautiful. The score was
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
My problem with that movie, and I'm just gonna make it very simple. My problem with that movie was the characterization. There was not enough time
with all the characters. Yeah,
all the characters. There was not enough time for for good characterization to grow with those characters. So part of me just didn't care. Part of me just didn't care. Now there were certain characters I cared about.
Hold on, guys. I don't want us to get to a full-on review for Eternals.
right. Because I know DL wants to wrap up, so let's kind of table it for later.
Mm-hmm. So. Actually, okay, I do want to mention one more thing because I forgot to talk about this in review, and then we'll close this out. That entire sequence where Batman does he go to China or Japan, whatever?
China,
and captures that random mob boss in China. Like, that was a cool sequence, even though I thought the choreography was still kind of weird. It was still kind of stiff, whatever. Like, no one work on that as well. But like, would that go down all right? Would China not like respond to a random dude in a black bat suit just snatching up someone from their country? Like, okay.
You would think so. You would think so.
Like, no, it's fine.
Mr. Let's see. Lau, I'm pretty sure is the character's name. Mr. Lau. Yeah. Where exactly is all that money going to go? Like I said, I'm good with calculation. Fun fact, just a small little fun fact about that actor. He actually appeared in another, it's a little super hit that I really enjoyed called Contagion. Great film. Really good, really good film. I think it came out like in the last 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm. So another interesting anecdote about this movie, and it's something that gets brought up a lot about talking about the behind the scenes and stuff for this movie. You know the scene where they're having the party in the penthouse and the Joker comes in?
Yep, and then Batman helps save Rachel when they fall from 5 stories, and he crashes into a car, and he's completely fine.
Well, no, what I was going to say is Michael Caine, Alfred, was supposed to have some lines that he was supposed to say when Joker busts into the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Michael Caine was so surprised at Heath Ledger as the Joker because he hadn't seen him yet that like his actual reaction in the movie, like Alfred's reaction in the movie, was actually Michael Caine reacting to Heath Ledger, and instead of retaking and taking another take of that scene, Nolan was like, "Yep, we got to leave that in," because then that's like pure Michael Caine just freaking out because he'd not seen Heath Ledger in the makeup yet.
Yeah, I actually heard about that. That was actually pretty funny.
I can't say I blame him because, and I'm kind of glad they did it that way because I think honestly it gave a little more, a more deeper sense of dread for the character of the Joker. So I'm kind of glad they did it that way.
Also, another thing about the Joker, the makeup. You'll notice as the movie goes along, the makeup looks more decayed, more decrepit, more infected, as was said on a review that I watched. It's almost like the chaos was still feasting on even the Joker himself, the chaos of Gotham, the chaos of everything that was going on.
Mhm.
Like the Joker was showing that chaos on the outside through his appearance.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really good element of that movie too.
Mhm. But we're not just gonna skip on the fact that that Batman literally fell from 5 stories to save Rachel, and they crash into a car, and he's fine, no broken bones. We're not just gonna skip over that. Like, no, 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 no.
Not
I
even
don't care
some
what armor he
bruising.
had. No bruising, no broken bones, no nothing. I don't care what suit he has on. I'm sorry, you are going to the hospital after that fall. Like, no, 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 no. But
Well, for all we know,
anyway,
maybe he did.
Yeah, that Nomex is not going to save you from the impact.
but yeah. Anyway, to close things out, yeah, I really enjoy the movie. I think it's a very well made film. Heath Ledger's the Joker, iconic, very iconic, one of the best roles I've seen in a Batman film, let alone a film. Heath Ledger, I didn't care about him before this movie, but he completely changed my perspective on casting. Like, no one should even judge casting anymore after this performance. I know there's still those few people that look at Robert Pattinson coming into the Batman and be like, Twilight Boy? I'm like, no, nope. He ain't Twilight Boy no more. I promise you
look,
that.
Pattinson is actually a good actor if he's
Yes, he
given the
is.
right material. Okay.
Yep.
There's a
Right.
movie called Remember Me that he was in. That was a good movie. And a lot of people keep kicking it back to Twilight. Okay, look,
Twilight Boy?
we spoke about this earlier today. I spoke about this earlier today with talking with Josh and on his panel.
Mm-hmm.
If they had a different actress to play opposite him in that movie in Twilight, if they'd had a better, more emotionally with it actress, then there would not have been a problem with the Twilight movies. Kristen Stewart cannot act. She's wooden.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
she's gotten
And
better.
it
there's
doesn't
roles
matter.
she's in that she's better.
She's gotten better. She got nominated for Spencer.
That
She
is
plays,
true.
Maybe.
Hey,
That's-
for her to get
I haven't
nominated,
seen
that's
Spencer yet,
something.
so
That does say something.
I
Even though I don't
think-
like Brie Larson, and she's been nominated for a bunch of stuff, but that's just me.
Well, she nominated and she won. So, yeah, but that's beside the point.
But anyway, so yeah, I thought Heath Ledger was fantastic. Christian Bale is great as Batman. Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent, Two-Face was really good. Gary Oldman, Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, all really good. Maggie Gyllenhaal wasn't my favorite, but she did the best with what she had to work with, I guess, as Rachel.
I've never understood why they recast her. Like,
because Katie Holmes was going through some drama with Tom Cruise, and that's why she didn't come back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Essentially, it was for a legit reason. I think they were going through their divorce at the time, and that's why she didn't come back.
Yeah.
So there was a legit reason why Katie Holmes didn't come back. It wasn't because she didn't want to. It was because, well, she was dealing with her loony of a husband, or now ex-husband.
Yep.
Mr. Scientology.
How many poor women over the years have had to deal with Tom Cruise?
I still defend Tom Cruise as I really like him as an actor, but him as a person I could care less about.
Yes.
Look, you can love an artist for their art and still not like them for their performance. Yes,
I
actually
prefer
we did.
Katie Holmes over Maggie Gyllenhaal. Yes.
Well, and like I said early on and everything, Katie Holmes is just cuter than Maggie Gyllenhaal. Not that Maggie Gyllenhaal is unattractive, but Katie Holmes has, I think, what you call the girl next door factor, and that makes her much more appealing.
Yeah, not so much secretary Maggie Gyllenhaal.
For a woman in her 30s, she's still got that cute girl next door look.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Even though I think she's a little twisted now, having been married to Tom Cruise, but
well, who is it? Who would it be, right?
She'll get better. She'll get better if she hasn't already. She'll get better. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
one Leah Remini. She got a Scientology and she's doing okay. So Katie will be all right. It'll just
Yeah.
take her a little while.
She'll be good.
Now
But
that she
yeah,
doesn't have to
so
listen to the whole theory about Zimu.
oh brother. Oh
Oh
Don't
brother.
get
man,
me started.
Scientology is a funny thing to dig into if you're an outsider, and you're like, L. Ron Hubbard was a crazy effer.
But
Well,
yeah.
especially since since it was a religion started by a sci-fi writer. Okay, come on,
Yeah, I know, right?
and a shyster,
But
and a shyster.
yeah, yep. Well, but I think DL's wanting to close out, so we can talk about L. Ron Hubbard off air. So, DL, sorry,
Yeah,
but
so but,
We'll talk
no,
about
no,
it in the
it's okay.
backstage, man. We'll talk about it in the backstage.
Sure. But yeah, so action sequences, set pieces were good, cinematography was really good. Me personally, I still prefer Batman Begins over this movie. I know it's sacrilege to say, but for me, I thought Batman Begins was more of a focus film. And I felt like Batman had more to do in that one in this than in this film. Like I feel like as much as great as Heath Ledger is, I still feel like he overshadowed a lot of things in the movie. Not to say that everyone else was bad, but it's just Heath Ledger just took over every scene that he's in. And I just felt like the other elements kind of fell short compared to Heath Ledger's. But that's just me, and I personally didn't like the ending. I felt like it probably could have ended after the Joker and Batman confrontation on the construction site. Maybe after that, I didn't care for it at all. Two Face, I thought was really good, but he was wasted. He was completely wasted. I was not happy about that, and I still don't know how to feel about Batman quitting in the second film. I understand what Nolan was going for, and I respect it. Being a more relatable and human Batman, I understand why he made that choice. But for me personally, I just still don't know how to feel about it. So that's what keeps it from being better than Batman Begins for me, or saying like it's one of the greatest comic book films I've ever seen. Just watching it recently, there's stuff like that that I noticed where I'm like, eh. That being said, I will say that The Dark Knight is pretty good. What? You didn't give it greatness or perfection? No, I personally don't feel like it is greatness or perfection. It's almost to greatness. It's almost to greatness. But if it didn't have those issues that I said, I would have bumped it up to greatness. But there's just some things that just bother me that makes it a very, very high, pretty good. But that's just me. Closing thoughts, gentlemen. Ambassador.
Well, to give my own score on the film, like I said, 22 years on, to score this out of a 10, I give it a 9. Not a 9.5, but a 9. Because there are some issues with it. Like I said, the one big one for me is Maggie Gyllenhaal's portrayal of Rachel. She seemed too cold. She seemed too distant to Bruce. And that for me kind of knocked it down a little bit. But in terms of the movie overall, I thought it was as good put together as any film I've seen or anything in a long time, in within the last 10 years of its release. It holds up. It's honestly, for me, it's timeless. It's a great piece of cinema. So yeah, I give it a 9.
And what about you, Dave?
Okay, so it has some good, it has some bad. I do think that Heath Ledger stole the show. Not that that's a bad thing. He had a really good performance, and I will carry that to the end of my days as probably one of the best Joker performances ever. Wasn't real thrilled with Maggie Gyllenhaal, but hey, she did her best. With the exception of the last like 20 minutes of the movie, it's pretty much good. Score was good. Cinematography was beautiful. The actors that they did impressively well, except for, of course, the one I mentioned. But it comes up short on that ending. They shouldn't have gotten rid of Two-Face as easily as they did. that's to be honest, DL, that's the only part of that movie that seemed disjointed to me, was that last little section of movie. It was very disjointed. Didn't seem to go with the rest of the movie. So, in light of all of that, I say I'm going to give it out of out of 10. I'll give it about an 8.5.
Okay. Well, that is our thoughts on The Dark Knight. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? Comment your thoughts and let me know. I'd like to thank Ambassador and Thade for joining with me on this discussion. I had a lot of fun. Um, you want to tell the good people where they can find you? Starting with you, Ambassador.
Well, you can find me on my channel, the Ambassadorial Wing. I cover pop culture, modern retro, a lot of movie reviews, deep dives into different themes and aspects of the pop culture spectrum from or the landscape of the 80s and 90s. I do reviews, I do live streams, both uploads and, like I said, live streams. And if it's geeky, if it's nerdy, if it's awesome, I cover it. And I want to thank you again, DL, for having me on. Great discussion as always. And Thade, good to talk with you again, my friend. I'm really enjoying our time working together on this wacky thing called YouTube. So that's me.
Yeah.
Same.
Awesome.
As
Thade,
for
anything you
me,
want to plug? Yeah.
2-3 nights a week, you probably see me over on the Poindexter Lounge, getting crazy with the panel. It's always a good time. Enosh is good people, and so is everybody on the panel. So you can come join us over there. On Fridays, you'll catch me with Josh over at Order of Revan. We do a Star Wars show on Fridays around about 7 o'clock in the evening. At around 11:30 or so on Friday nights, you'll find me over on the Jason Lee Tucker Statement doing the late night snack show. We talk about pop culture stuff, basically everything I do on every other channel at this point. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you'll find me over at Jedi Bill 797. We do the karaoke streams. Come over there. We sing. Nobody's professional, so don't be afraid to come up and make a fool of yourself. It's a good time. It's always fun. Let's see. I've got my own channel coming up here probably in the first, second week of March. I'm going to be doing true crime and paranormal. So when that starts up, of course, I'll let everybody know. I'll get the information out on that, but it should be a good time. I've got a character actually picked out that I'm going to play in that spot on my channel. Kind of a outside thing of how I normally am. Other than that, anywhere geeky, nerdy, or entertainment stuff is talked about, you'll probably find me. So,
all right, cool. Just to plug something real quick that I recently been on yesterday. I was on a live stream on Ruby Groupie's channel. Go and check out his channel. We did a whole live stream ranking all the MCU projects up until this point. So if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and check out his channel. But yeah, so if you guys enjoyed this live stream, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell if you want to be notified of future videos I'll be doing. I am this close to 400 subscribers. So yeah, please subscribe if you enjoy what I do. And then the next Batman film we will be talking about is The Final Stop. Before Matt Reeves' The Batman, we will be talking about the third and final installment of the Christopher Nolan Batman Dark Knight trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises. So tune in for that when it comes out. But that's all we have for you Batman fans, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Talk to you guys later. Why so serious?